mid-level employees ganged up against him and he was ousted as the managing director. Mid-level employees face a crisis because they are kind of sandwiched. They are neither at the top, they are not doing excellently well at the top, nor are they entry-level employees with a lot of passion. They are somewhere sandwiched in between. They are trying to figure out what exactly is the meaning of life, meaning of passion, and all those kind of things. So that's what our next session is going to be. Our next session is about beating the midlife blues. And who better than Walter Vieira would be able to guide us through that, who has written several books and who ran a column for 20 years in Business World, which was focused on marketing, the authority of marketing in India, and who worked with Glaxo, Warner Lambert and Boots Company, heading their marketing divisions. And he would be in conversation with Gautam Mahajan, an internationally acclaimed expert in strategy and general management, and editor of the Journal of Creating Value. Could I please request both of you to come on stage, sirs? Sorry about it. Okay. Thank you very much. So I would moderator shall be introducing himself as well as the speakers.
Good afternoon. I guess we're holding up your tea break, so we'll try to do it in time together. But I think the topic is very interesting, and I think it's a good overflow from the last conversation. The interesting part about this discussion is that maybe there's a book which can be written about this. So this is a conversation where there is no book that exists today. My name is Ranganath Iyengar. I'm the founder of a company called Strategic Interventions, a management consulting firm. I've been in corporate, worked with companies like Hewlett Packard and ITC in leadership roles, and I've been in business for about 15 years. I'd like to introduce my panelists for today, and I think you have had partial introductions. I think let me do the honors for a minute. I'm delighted to introduce, I need to read it because it's quite a long description. I'm delighted to introduce Walter Vieira, President of Marketing Advisory Group, which he founded in 1975. Prior to that, he spent 14 years with various corporations, Glaxo, Warner Lambert and Boots Company. He's a certified management consultant and a fellow of the Management Consultants Institute. And he's been providing training services and consultancy in business and marketing strategies. He's also taught at several leading institutes like Jamnalal Bajaj, ASCI in Hyderabad, and many other colleges overseas. He's published more than 900 articles in the general press, was on the advisory board of Journal of Management Consultants US. He's authored 10 books. I'm sure many of you would have come across his books over the years. He's also addressed several important management meetings across the world. And he's also been the president of the Institute of Management Consultants, founder chairman of the Asia Pacific Conference of Management Consultants, and chairman of the International Council of Management Consulting Institutes. Welcome, Walter. Can we give him a hand, please? I'm privileged to introduce Dr. Gautam Mahajan. Gautam is an internationally acclaimed expert in strategy, general management, and globalization. He's the president of Customer Value Foundation and Interlink Services, an international consulting firm in operation since 1987, working with clients across the globe. And he's also the founder editor of the Journal of Creating Value, and that's what his book is all about. He's been a thought leader in the total value management, worked with Fortune 50 company, and ran one of the largest businesses in the plastic industry. He's got on-hand experience in consulting, educating leaders, professionals, and advised many companies across the Tatas, Birlas, ITC, Reynolds, and many other companies. He's an author of widely acclaimed books like The Customer Value Investment, Formula for Sustained Business Success, and Total Customer Value Management, Transforming Business Thinking. He's also been the president of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, chairman Plast India, and many other think tanks and forums. Amongst his honors and fellowships he's got fellowships from Harvard Business School and Illinois Institute of Technology, and he's got more than 18 US patents. He's also been written about in the Wall Street Journal and has got several other credentials. He's a graduate of IIT Madras, where he was a merit scholar. He's got a master's degree in mechanics and completed his PhD coursework from Illinois Institute of Technology and an MBA from Suffolk University. Welcome, Gautam. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes to just introduce the topic to you, and then I'm going to work with my panelists to give you some interesting perspectives on beating the midlife blues. As described, the topic it's more about so as described, the topic is more about as we hit midlife. Now we've got entrepreneurs and we've got business leaders, right? So there is a context to understand here as to what is this? Are we talking about a crisis, or are we talking about the stressors itself, right? We might be facing different kinds of stress points every day in our lives, and that's some of the aspects we can discuss. So I made a couple of quick notes which I'd just like to share with you as pointers before I open the dialogue, and these are really questions that are there on my mind. Couple of interesting stats for you. Midlife usually refers to the period between 45 to 60, although there's a debate around this. And most of the questions in our mind are, what do I do next? What's my higher purpose? This is about my last chance to getting it right. There is a recent survey done by The Guardian, and this talks about that the most miserable period is between the age of 50 and 54, and this phase can last till you're 65. After which you kind of settle down. There's a certain calmness that descends, right? So this is one little piece of information for you. The other aspect is about what comes to my mind in terms of questions is about various life anchors. So the moment we talk about crisis, we talk about suppressors and so on, it's about what is our personality type and what is our demeanor towards handling psychological crisis. Most of this is in our minds, right? Actually, no one has asked us to do anything different from what we are supposed to do. So a lot of this could be a mind game. But in terms of anchors, you might want to think about how this could impact our relationships, careers, power, money. So some of it is tangible, some of it could be intangible. A couple of other aspects. One could be, what are the visible symptoms that one is going through this phase? Interestingly, there is very little written about this. If you even go into a Google search, you'll find some very abstract little anecdotal notes and articles, maybe some research papers talking about experiential living or quarter life and so on, very abstract theories. So let's try and ask these two learned gentlemen here about some of their perspectives. So Walter, would you like to give some opening comments?
I'll just make a comment and then give an example to kick the ball. Many years ago, a man called Donald Hull wrote an article in the Harvard Business Review, and he said, each of us should have two qualities, and if we don't have them, we should develop them. One is you must have agility. The agility to fly like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Both. That you are able to fly and you are able to sting. And the other quality is absorption. You must have the ability for absorption so that you can keep kicking while you are getting a licking. And those days, 20 years ago, there was a great boxing match that was being held in Sale. It was the World Championship for heavyweight, and it was called the Rumble of the Jungle. And the prize was $10 million, big amount 25 years ago. And George Foreman, the reigning heavyweight champion, had absorption. He was a giant of a man. And Muhammad Ali, just young at that time, had agility. Who won? That time, it was Muhammad Ali who won, and that's how he became famous. But you and I don't have a choice. We need to be both Foreman and Muhammad Ali. We need to have agility and absorption. And don't believe that midlife crisis happens to a few. It happens to all of us. It has happened to me twice. Only one wife. But 3 crises. But I have ability, agility, and absorption. That is my basic submission. Example. I traveled to San Jose in May, in USA from Bombay. Sitting next to me was Sadhu Mahajan. And he was in saffron clothes. And since it was a long flight to Frankfurt to San Francisco, we got talking. And I asked him whether he was always a sadhu. And he said, no, Mr. Vieira, I am an electrical engineer from IIT Gautam. And I used to work for IBM or somebody in New York, close by. And I was in USA for 15 years. And everything was going very nicely until I realized there's a huge demand for sadhus. And if I became a sadhu, I will earn much more than I'm earning in IBM. So he came back, he had agility. He stayed in the Himalayas for 2 years, learned all the slokas, and went back. And today he's one of the most sought after sadhus in eastern United States. He showed me his diary. And he was all full. I said, you operate only in the West? He said, no, I go anywhere. But you know, I travel only business class and stay minimum 4-star, which was more than what I was doing. And he was charging more than I was charging as a management consultant. And that made me think how he has turned his life from electrical engineering to being a sadhu. He came to a turning point in his life. So for you and me, there are plenty of opportunities. There's no need for breakdown that they are talking about. You can move on, take turns and twists. And this is the only example I've given you. I've got a friend of mine from Citibank who is today one of Bombay's best chefs, Mr. Nikhil Chip. He owns Busaba. If you are in Kulaba in Bombay, go to Busaba. They make finest cocktails and the best Thai food. MBA from USA, working with Citibank, now a cook and chief bottle washer. That is my submission.
Thank you, that was wonderful. You know, he's a hard act to follow. So if I put you to sleep, it's all his fault. So the fact really is that we have crises all of the time. I had a crisis when I was 2 years old. I remember it was the first kind of crisis. I started trying to walk over. So we have crises. I had crisis when I was 20 years old and I had a crisis. I don't know why midlife crisis is so important. So that's another thing that Walter said in the previous group talked about was change. We have to rebrand ourselves. We have to find a way of reinventing ourselves. We have to find a way of redefining ourselves and things of that sort. So change is something that we cannot run away from. The other thing that we must remember is that we are all multi-layered personalities. We have different, we're not one person, we're many persons, and we have to learn to live with many of these persons. The problem that happens is that people see you also as, depending on what they are, and all kinds of things happen there. What you're trying to be, what people see you as. So all of these things start to impact you. And one of the problems that starts to happen is that one part of your personality or one part of you tries to overcome the other parts of you. And if you allow that to happen, you're going to drive yourself into the midlife crisis. Now, just to pick up on what Walter talked about, I've been saying to people, it's in my book, that there are 4 A's. And the 4 A's are ability, agility, and the ability to be ambivalent and ambidextrous. So what does that mean? So let's say you hurt me and I want to give it back to you. One of the things that will start happening to me is that it'll start to bug me. I lose sleep. I've done this to me, all those things. So we have to learn, for example, to forgive this person and yet hate the person. That's being ambidextrous. Hate the person means taking to court and do all the things that you have to do, but forgive him so that he doesn't bother you. And if he bothers you, you're asking for a midlife crisis. So there's a whole bunch of things we can talk about, but I'll leave it to the host.
Thank you, that is very interesting. So let me just develop the conversation a little further. Walter, there is this whole shift in the role and identity and a balance. So you must have observed a lot of your clients, entrepreneurs and leaders that you have worked with, as to probably one is that we get older, so maybe it's about reskilling or there is other changes that's happening. It's also about vulnerability. There is a new generation in front of us. We are handling younger people. So what do you think are some of this whole challenge in how we groom our new personality?
One of the ways to meet the challenge, these challenges in careers now are much greater than they used to be 50 years ago. Because the world is moving much faster. Changes are taking place much faster. As everybody knows, it's fashionably called, we are living in a VUCA world, where there is, a total change with technology taking place all the time, and therefore changing attitudes of customers and employees and so on. In this VUCA world, the time to prepare is when you're a child. I have come to that conclusion. Every child should be brought up with 2 hobbies. One creative, the other cooperative, the other collective. The creative hobby could be anything, music, art, something that will allow you to spend time with yourself so that you will never be lonely. You will enjoy aloneness. A lot of people don't feel comfortable being alone. They feel they must Actually, if you're not comfortable enjoying your own company, you have no business to inflict it on anybody else. So, you must enjoy aloneness, not loneliness. The second is collective hobby. Maybe football, hockey, collecting coins, stamps which take you to exchange with others so that it takes you out. If you have grown up with a collective hobby and a creative hobby, you will always be prepared to take the twists and turns in life. More than that, you will enjoy retirement, when once again you will come to a stage where you can enjoy creativity, independence, autonomy, CIA instead of MSR, money, status, reputation. You move from MSR style of life to CIA style of life. So therefore, I won't answer the question in a direct way. How can you manage these midlife crises? The time to prepare for it is the time of preparation to avoid it, or to build the skills to be able to face it. I moved from, I qualified as a pharmaceutical technologist, and then never entered a laboratory after I graduated. Because I joined Glaxo, and the British managing director said, Mr. Vieira, you are a pharmacist who can speak English reasonably well. I think you should do only sales. Forget about being posted anywhere else. So he told all the other directors, don't touch him. He is going to be in marketing department. So all my life I spent in marketing. Then I became marketing director of a company. Managing director thought I would be the next managing director. So he felt very insecure. So it had to be either I become managing director and getting thrown out, or I get out. So I got out, and I started India's first marketing consulting company in 1975. And I spent the first 1 year only telling people exactly what I do. Because they said, you do market research? No, no, no. You do advertising? No, 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 no. You do PR? No, no. Then what do you do? I am a marketing consultant. But what does that mean? 1 year, I didn't earn. I was barking at disinterested executives for 300 rupees a day, which was also paid after 3 months. I had to start all over again. My company car went, the driver went, everything went. And once again I came back to arriving at Delhi airport. That was a terrible thing. Then after many years as marketing director, you arrive at an airport, nobody to receive you, no garland, no company car, no hotel already booked. Once again I was looking for auto rickshaw. Couldn't afford taxi. Going to Janpat Hotel, paying 35 rupees a night those days. Quite a lot of money. And so it is a new beginning and a new evolution. Now I've gone out of consulting because they say, now you're too old. So I did the next thing. I changed my career to be involved in NGOs. So I'm chairman of the Consumer Union of India, and so on and so forth. And still continue to be busy. Another term. And then I met Sadhu Mahajan. And what a strange, I meet so many Mahajans in such treasure. And he has influenced me to take another turn in life. So maybe next time I will be coming to your session and you may invite me in place of Mr. Patnaik.
Thank you, that was wonderful. You know, if you look at Westerners, they'll probably tell you, I can narrate two interesting things. One is the old adage of a Westerner beating midlife crisis was to buy a superbike and get a lot of tattoos and run away with somebody half your age. That's one way to... I also had a colleague once, and so we asked him, jovially, he was about 40 years old and returning from Europe when I was in HP. And so we asked him, what's so different at 40? He said, in Europe we have a tradition, we either change our car or our wives or our spouses. So, so these are some interesting perspectives that people had. Of course, now the context is so different. So anyway, on that note, let me ask you an interesting question. You've been both a business leader and an entrepreneur. Is it very different? Is the midlife crisis very different for a business leader, a corporate leader who's been in corporate all the time versus an entrepreneur?
I don't really think so. I don't think there's any difference. You know, what they said, changes happen in our careers so much. Many of you were doing your MBAs, were engineering students. Engineering. Can you hear now? So many of us, many of you were English or engineering students, and now you're business students, and you know you've got to change all over the place. And one of the things that I keep asking everyone, he's said entrepreneur or businessman, I keep asking people that you change places with me that you might not want to do. Would you like to change places with Walter?
Also, they would say no.
No, no, but really serious. This is a serious question, and the answer is going to be no, because you guys believe that you can take care of the future. You don't want to be in a situation where everything is known. Ours is an open book. Yours is a futuristic book. But you're going to go for it. So what the hell are we talking about? There's no midlife crisis. If you're not worried about it, just forget it.
I just wanted, because Ranganathan has been talking about changing wives and changing cars as alternatives. As somebody who's nearly 80 years old, let me tell you the story of two elderly women who one was complaining to the other. Both were 80 and 82 and their husbands were about the same age. And one said to the other, you know, I really don't know what to do with my husband. He keeps turning back and looking at beautiful girls as they pass by. And I think he forgets that he's 82. Does your husband do the same? So the other one said, see, everybody's husband does this. But I don't let it bother me. Because you know there are lots of dogs that also run after fast cars. But when the car stops, can they drive the car?
So you have, I just want to ask another question, because it made me think about it. Why is it midlife blues? Why not midlife reds or midlife greens? You know, so think about it that way. If it's red and green, you don't need to worry about the blues.
Well, that's interesting. So let's go a little bit outside of office and careers and all, and go back to our lives and see what we can do. So if you see a lot of people today, as we get to leadership roles or running large businesses which are ever growing, we seem to be busy all the time. And so when a kind of a crisis hits us, it could be a life event. You know, life events can be quite disturbing, like what we saw last Monday in Bangalore, right? Something as simple as that can be a complete disruptor in your life. Now, when you look back on your life and any of these events suddenly cause you to pause and break, how would you like to probably address that? Let's say if this audience were full of people who are faced with midlife crises and they've all been there, done that before, what would you like to tell them, in terms of, let's look outside the office for their personal lives, society, what they want to do. And I think for many people, they're also challenged with that as well.
In a way, I've already answered that question by talking to you about preparing for 60 years ahead in your own childhood. Talking about creative and collective hobbies. But when I'm talking about, how do you manage this? Your question was, how do you manage the outside? Yeah. I have found 3 categories of people. I have found among people that I worked with in offices and among my clients' companies, there are people who have hobbies which are so consuming that they are destroying their work life. I've had a friend of mine in Glaxo who was so committed to films, art films. He started Bombay's first art film society called Anandam. And his name was Dutia, Gopal Dutia. And it was a highly successful film society. But he remained at the same job in the purchase department of Glaxo for 7 years without promotion. Because he was spending so much time on Ananda and not devoting enough time to his work. Category 1. Category 2 are those who do work because it has to be done, but find satisfaction outside work. Which is all right, because they are doing it outside work hours. I had my distribution manager in Warner Lambert, who retired from the Navy, Commander Lopez, and his hobby was to play the wooden saw, the saw, with a violin bow. He was the only one in India who played Western music with only the wooden saw. And he used to be invited to Israel, to Russia, to give. He was adequate at his job. But he never stayed beyond 5:30 in the evening in the office. Couple of times when I delayed him till 7, because I was single at that time. And, I had plenty of time to work. So one day he came to me and he said, Walter, I have 2 bosses. I said, really, Commander? He said, yes, but one wears skirts. So you are my boss only till 5:30. I have to leave because otherwise the other boss complains. And then he would go home and play the wooden saw, and so he found satisfaction outside. The third category completely quits, like my friend from Philips, who played the sitar, and he did not find satisfaction in his work. So he completely quit and has become one of India's now most sought after sitar players. So you see this different gradation. Each one has to decide, where are we heading? How far can we go? And how can we satisfy ourselves for the passions that we nurture? Thank you.
So, I've got an opposite thing here. Sometimes things happen to you. We had a vice president in the company I was working in the US, and he went on a holiday. And when he came back and he opened his office door, the office had been converted into a toilet. So that's giving a message, right? So he had to change his career. And then I had a boss who got fired, and that guy had to go through a lot of stuff. But he used to tell me, at least I'm not dead. And therefore I would suggest that you read a book by Paul Kalanithi called When Breath Turns to Air, about his fight with cancer.
Thank you so much. So my last question to either of the panelists.
I'm so sorry, I know that this was a very, very engaging session, very, very entertaining session. We are just trying to run on time because last year there were complaints about we overshooting our time.
Let's take our kids and get out. Let's take the kids and get out.